All right, let's talk about one of the most intense moments in modern space exploration, the first 48 hours of the Artemis 2 mission. This is so much more than just a launch. It's the moment humanity finally stepped back into deep space after more than 50 years. But what really happens in those first 2 days? What are those critical make or break moments that decide if a mission like this is going to succeed? Let's dive in.
Just think about that for a second. Right before lighting that candle, with the whole world watching, Commander Reid Wiseman says this. It really just captures the whole spirit of the mission, doesn't it? It's this powerful reminder that, yeah, there are 4 astronauts on board, but this is a leap for every single one of us back here on Earth.
So, for the first time since 1972, we're finally out of our own backyard. It's a huge deal. So how did this incredibly complicated, incredibly daring test flight actually kick off? What were the key checks and maneuvers in those first couple of days that had to go right to set up the rest of this historic 10-day trip? Okay, let's set the scene. It's April 1st, 2026. We're at the legendary Launch Complex 39B, and the Artemis generation is officially born. Tucked inside that Orion capsule, which they named Integrity, you've got 4 incredible astronauts: Reid Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Koch, and Jeremy Hansen. They are literally ready to write the next chapter of space exploration. Can you even imagine it? The ground shaking, the air just crackling with energy. It takes a monumental amount of power to break free from Earth's gravity, and boy did the SLS rocket deliver. Roaring to life, it unleashed nearly 9 million pounds of thrust. That is just the raw, unbelievable energy you need to launch 4 people and their spaceship all the way to the moon. The ride to orbit is just wild. It's this violent but perfectly choreographed explosion. Just look at this timeline. In less than a minute, they're already flying faster than the speed of sound. A few seconds later, they hit max Q. That's the moment of the most intense stress on the rocket. By the 2-minute mark, those huge solid rocket boosters have done their job and they're gone. And then, just 8 minutes after liftoff, the main engines cut out and the crew of Integrity, well, they're in orbit, just like that. But before they could even think about heading to the moon, the crew had a super important 24-hour test flight to get through, all while flying in a really unique high Earth orbit. Commander Wiseman put it perfectly. This was the time to answer the most basic questions. Can it keep us alive? Can we drink the water? Can we go to the bathroom? I mean, every single system had to be put through its paces to prove it was ready for deep space. Okay, to get what they did next, we just need 2 quick terms. Apogee is the point in an orbit that's farthest from Earth, and perigee is the closest point. You can kind of think of it as the deep end and the shallow end of their orbital swimming pool. These 2 points are absolutely key for their next moves. So they didn't just coast into the perfect orbit. It's more like they had to carefully tune it like a guitar string before a big show. The rocket's upper stage performed 2 really important engine burns. First, an apogee raise burn basically pushed their orbit's high point even higher, sending them way out. Then, a perigee raise burn lifted the lowest part, creating this perfect, stable loop for their 24-hour systems check. Now, this next part is one of the coolest parts of the whole shakedown, the proximity operations test. In an age where everything in spaceflight is getting more and more automated, this was a very deliberate choice to see how Orion felt with a human actually at the controls. For the first time, an astronaut was gonna take the wheel. And you can just feel the energy in this quote from pilot Victor Glover. After they separated from that spent rocket stage, this was his excited call down to mission control. He wasn't in a simulator anymore. He was actually manually flying a deep space vehicle with the moon and a piece of his own rocket right there outside his window. He later said the craft felt, quote, quite nice and very responsive. How cool is that? Now, this wasn't just some joyride. This 70-minute test was a super important dress rehearsal. The crew had to prove they could handle Orion with absolute precision. And that's a skill that's going to be essential for missions like Artemis 3, where they'll need to dock with a lunar lander. They were pretty much practicing how to park next to their ride down to the moon's surface. The whole point of a test flight is to find problems before they become big, scary problems. And a few hours into the mission, the Artemis 2 crew got to prove they weren't just amazing pilots, but also first-class space mechanics, all while whipping around the Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. This is where the real test begins. So any astronaut will tell you a working toilet is a very, very high priority in a tiny capsule.
So when a fault light started blinking, it was all hands on deck. Mission specialist Christina Koch got to work with engineers down in Houston to figure out the problem and get it back online. They also dealt with a quick communications dropout. But see, these weren't failures. They were successful tests of the most important system they have, the crew on board and the team on the ground working together perfectly.
So after a full day of checkout, successful tests, and even some in-flight repairs, the moment had finally come. Every system was checked, every astronaut was ready, and Mission Control in Houston pulled for a go. It was time for Artemis 2 to leave Earth behind and really truly begin its journey to the moon.
This is the big one. It's called the Trans Lunar Injection, or TLI. What that really means is it's a single, powerful engine burn. It's a precisely calculated push that accelerates Orion just enough to escape Earth's gravity and fly on a path that will take it all the way around the moon. From this point on, there's no turning back. For 5 minutes and 55 seconds, Orion's main engine fired with just breathtaking precision. Any mistake here, a second too long, a tiny bit off angle, and the entire lunar flyby would be at risk. But the burn was perfect. Looks like a good burn, Mission Control confirmed. And with those 4 simple words, the crew was officially on its way. And in that moment, right there, history was made. For the first time in over half a century, human beings were once again traveling into the vastness of deep space. The crew of Integrity crossed a threshold that no one had passed since the very last Apollo mission, pushing the boundaries of human exploration into a brand new era. You see, the flawless way these first 48 hours went down was more than just a successful test. It was a huge validation of the entire Artemis program. So as Orion speeds toward the moon, you have to wonder, with this first crucial step taken, are we, as a species, finally on the edge of building a real, sustainable, permanent human foothold on another world?